10 tips that might one day save your life, ChavevzzSlovakia. You ever just wondered, yeah, man, what happens if I fall off a cliff and I am the one who cannot get up? Huh? If you have fallen and you need to rise, who is the one who's going to help yourself up? That didn't make much sense. Let's get into it, man. This is by the Mind Warehouse. I like videos like this because I end up learning something. And learning something's always fun, man. So come forth.
Hello, everyone. Imagine that you are in an extreme situation or that something bad has happened to you. It's not something we wish on anyone, but no one's completely safe from a sudden tragedy. Maybe you know the right way to run away from a crocodile, what to do if you get bitten by a jellyfish, or the benefits of using coconut water. But surely, most do not know that. And this video will teach them something
some like
new.
Mountain Man
Today,
type
we
shit.
Will show you 10
I was
life
talking
hacks
about like
that will
saving
help
your life from stuff that might happen indoors. Even though I mentioned falling off a cliff. But I mean like, you know, inside the house
you
is what I thought it was.
survive in unforeseen situations. That's why you cannot miss today's video. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on.
Make fire using your phone
That's
battery.
cool.
Let's start with the following situation. You are in a forest away from civilization.
Right.
It's cold, you're scared, and even though the forest is full of logs, you don't have a lighter or a box of matches. Probably your head will try to remember your basic physics or survival classes. Surely you remember something like that and start looking for a magnifying glass, a concave glass, or even a spoon to use the sun and start a
You
fire.
can do it with a spoon?
But what can you do if it's nighttime, or if the day's cloudy or rainy and the rays of sun don't pass between the clouds and the trees? Easy. Don't start crying, everything will be fine. In this case, you just have to look in your pockets. You probably have your phone with you, and that's just what you need. Since you're far from the city, calling a friend and asking for help isn't a solution, but making a campfire.
I was getting ready to say, if you just have your phone, if you don't just get your ass up and call somebody for help, turn the video off. But I got you. You can't call. No
Most
service.
modern phones and tablets have lithium-ion batteries, and probably yours too. To be sure, look for the Li ion emblem on your battery. If you pierce the battery with a pointed object, you'll create a chemical reaction and basically start a fire.
Really?
The important thing is to prepare in advance some sticks to create a bonfire, or it would have been all in vain.
That'd be so sad if you did that and then the stuff that you were trying to set on fire didn't set on fire.
Running away from
that
a
would be so
crocodile.
tragic.
Although hard to believe,
Running away from a
alligators, crocodiles, and similar animals kill hundreds of people each
What?
year. Although most deaths
I bet you
occur
they
in
have in
Africa
Florida.
and Asia,
Oh, okay.
these powerful reptiles can also be found in Latin America, Australia, and the United States. Humans are not
Bitch,
part of the
there'd
diet
be
of
no
these
way
animals,
I'd be in
but
it. No,
TBH,
hell
they
no.
eat whatever gets in their way. In
You all
addition,
would
these
be
creatures
dead.
defend their territory with
That's from
dedication,
Jumanji. I'd
especially
feed
in the
you.
breeding season.
I'm done.
That's
He's
why the
hungry, he
best
ain't
way
gonna
to
bother me.
protect yourself against these animals is just not to get too close to them. But even the most cautious person may suddenly encounter one of these monsters.
Tell you, I'm very cautious. I've never once encountered a crocodile. So be more like me.
What should you do then? Run as fast as you can. Crocodiles and alligators are not slow on land, as some people think.
He's moving.
They can reach a speed of 10 miles per hour. However, they get tired quickly while running. This means that a teenager or an adult can easily escape an encounter
What
with a
about old
crocodile.
people,
You should
fam?
also know that the fastest way to get away from a crocodile is to run straight. The infamous advice that you should run in a zigzag is completely false.
That's from the movie Kung Fu Hustle. It's a great
Jelly
movie.
sting. You're probably one of those people who prefer to enjoy their vacations in the sea or in the
Let's
ocean.
go. Michael Cera, do work.
Did you know that 1 out of 3 tourists visiting the sea have had bad experiences with jellyfish? The consequence of the bite of this creature can be very unpleasant. Burns, sharp pain, and redness of the skin are just some of the things caused by an encounter with a jellyfish. As if this weren't enough, you could suffer from a traumatic shock, allergic reaction, and a strong intoxication of the organism. But here we have some simple and effective instructions to offer first aid to the victim of this animal.
Okay. Don't
First
piss
of all,
on yourself.
clean the
Let's
wound
not.
to remove any animal waste. But don't do it with your bare hands, or you could suffer more bites. Clean the wound with salty water. Don't use fresh or potable water in any case, as this activates the stinging
That would be
cells.
so sad.
To remove the toxins, you should use apple vinegar extract, ammonia liquor, or simply alcohol. After this, call the doctor and reassure the victim until help arrives.
What about the thing with the credit card? Can't you remove the spines of it with the credit card too?
Forest First Aid Kit. In some extreme situations, the risk of suffering from
sleeping in an
hypothermia or
animal?
acquiring an intestinal infection is quite high. For that reason, it is essential to know about the simplest natural medicines which can save your life at any time. If you have trouble with your stomach, oak bark tea is just what you need. If you have a fever, you can lower the temperature of your body by chewing sable bark. The plant contains salicin, an element similar to aspirin. If you suffer from the sting of some stupid insect, you can treat the wound with dandelion juice or plantain. Other serious wounds or ulcers may be treated with oak bark, ashes, coniferous tree tar, or boiled cranberry leaves. And if you didn't manage to react in time and the inflammatory process has started, then you need to prepare a stew of cranberry, chamomile, St. John's wort, or black cranberry. Use it to clean the wound, but look for a doctor immediately. Superglue. You might think this is nonsense, but in extreme situations, superglue can be used to close a wound.
I've actually done that with cuts and stuff before. I've had a really deep cut on my thumb that we use superglue to close. It actually worked pretty well.
This was discovered for the first time during the Vietnam War, when physicians literally would close soldiers' wounds so they'd be sent back to war as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It was an effective way to stop the bleeding and save lives. When closing small wounds, such as cuts with knives or stones, superglue will stop the blood outflow and decrease the chance to get a scar. This method's quite effective in extreme situations. Experts, however, do not recommend using it to heal wounds at home, as it can cause irritation, damage the skin, cause allergies, and generate other side effects.
I mean, I wouldn't put a ton of it on there, because I've seen people glob it on the wound before, and superglue actually burns. But if you just get a little cut, and it's it just won't stop bleeding, if you can get it to stop bleeding for a minute, just kind of pinch it, superglue the side of it, it works actually really well.
Do not eat snow if you are thirsty. What would you do if you're dying of thirst while being in the middle of a snow desert or on a snowy day in the forest? You might think that the snow around is the solution. The snow is water and it's cold, but eating snow to quench thirst is forbidden, and not just for the fact that this cold substance could ruin your throat. The biggest problem is that the snow will lower the temperature of your body, just like an ice cream in the summer. In certain conditions, this is very bad, since the body has to spend extra energy to warm up. If you still want to quench your thirst with snow, prepare to lose strength and freeze. In our opinion, not a very good idea.
Prepare to lose strength
Extinguish
and
a
freeze.
frying pan. If you left a pan on the stove and you completely forgot, don't be surprised if the oil suddenly sets on fire. This process happens in seconds and can scare a person who isn't prepared. But don't panic, we'll tell you what to do. The first thing to know is that you should not move the pan off the stove or try to turn it off using water. The first will cause the oil to spill, and the second will increase the fire, and also the oil will jump all over, including your face. For starters, you should turn off the stove and cover the hot pan with a metal lid, or if you don't have one, with a metal grill. This method works when the flame is not too big. If you don't have such an object at hand, you can extinguish the fire with soda. Thanks to its chemical composition, the soda will consume the oxygen and stop the combustion process. But if the fire's too big and threatens to burn your kitchen down, the best method to avoid a fire is to use a fire extinguisher or a special blanket. Deep wound.
They're getting less and less good. They started out really well, but 10 tips that may save your life, how to put out a fire. I don't know, man. That is less effective.
From time to time, we are victims of our own stupidity.
Maybe baking
cutting
soda.
ourselves with glass or getting a splinter stuck in your finger. You probably think that you should remove the glass or remove the pieces of wood from the skin, but this isn't always the best solution. If the wound is deep enough and has affected a major blood vessel, in no case should the object be removed from the wound. Apparently, the object, in addition to affecting the blood vessels, covers the wound, and thanks to that, the bleeding's minimal. However, if you remove the object, the person can die from blood loss. Of course, having a foreign object in the body isn't at all healthy, but in some cases, it's better to wait for the professional help to arrive.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because we just watched that 10 magic tricks gone horribly wrong video. And at the end, in the Chris Angel one, the guy still had the blade stuck in his neck. And I was I thought it was super fake because they didn't remove the blade. That's what I was thinking. But now that I think about it, keeping the blade there was trying to make it more realistic. But for me, I was like, well, that just shows like the blood's there, so you can't see that the blade isn't actually in the guy's neck. It's just like an illusion. But for them, they were trying to be like, but if we remove it, he'll die, you know?
That in a situation like this, you should call the ambulance first, right? Medicinal coconut.
Coconut.
Did you know that coconut water, by its composition, resembles the plasma of human blood? This information was discovered in World War II, when wounded English and Japanese soldiers were treated with coconut water due to the lack of serum to save them from possible intoxication or dehydration. It is necessary to clarify that we're not talking about coconut milk, but coconut water,
Very big difference.
which can only be found when the fruit is unripe enough. Of course, this method was used only in extreme situations and doesn't currently have many followers. Some doctors say it's not a safe method, but if you find yourself in a dangerous situation, this fruit can save your life. Edible, inedible.
Okay.
And we go back to the forest.
Okay.
Imagine that you've lost yourself in a wooded area.
Right.
It's not the best way to pass the time, but it is something that happens frequently. You've walked for several hours already and you start to feel hungry. What can you do? Surely our idea isn't the most delicious or appetizing, but if you're in the forest and you're not a professional hunter, you can feed on insects. Yes, you heard right. The insects will give you enough protein and energy to survive. In addition, it's easier to learn to differentiate insects rather than all sorts of forest fruits or fungi. For example, you can easily eat any caterpillars, grasshoppers, locusts, termites, cicadas and their larvae, as well as dragonflies, ants and bee larvae, hairy caterpillars as well as beetles and
I don't
butterflies
think those are edible, fam.
forbidden. Also, if you find wild bees, you can enjoy some honey. For this, you need to make a bonfire with a lot of smoke under the nest, and of course, be very careful.
Locusts. Oh, I can feel it crawling
If you
on
think
my
our
eye.
tips are useful, do not forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you know other great methods to survive in extreme situations, tell us in the comments.
Bro, I don't know about that, dude. I'm not eating the goddamn caterpillar, man. I say that now, but maybe if I'm hungry enough, I might. Caterpillars, crickets, and locusts. I didn't know were safe for human consumption. I've seen some people eat some crickets and some caterpillar, but I didn't know it was basically any type of caterpillar. There's some caterpillars that I know will irritate you, though, because especially like the fuzzy ones when you eat them, because they like prick your tongue or some shit. But how many of you guys would eat a caterpillar if you were too hungry, man? 10 tips that might save your life. That's not bad, man. Shout out to my warehouse. I'll see you guys in the next video, man. Peace.